Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast.
Joined again this week by Kieran Collins and Ruairi Walsh. Lads, how are things?
Very good, Mark. Yourself?
Yeah, I suppose this episode will primarily focus on the Allianz National Hurling League Division 1, Group A, Group B and Division 2A. There's fairly contrasting results in Division 1 in the two groups, and also 2A. Carlow made a significant step for promotion with a good win against Laois and Portlaoise. I suppose, guys, maybe we kick off with Group A of Division 1. Do we want to kick off in Chadwick's Park? Kieran, Wexford 113 to Clare 16 points.
Yeah, I suppose again another wet day in Wexford Town. Probably the second or third one in a row now. The conditions haven't been great. A lot of rain that morning before the off, and I think it probably spoiled what potentially could have been a very good game. The first half was a real damn squib. There was lots of mistakes and errors, and I suppose it just the excitement levels never got going for anyone spectating there. Second half picked up a bit alright. I suppose from a Wexford point of view, they would have been happy going in at half time a point up, having played into the wind. I suppose the goal or the penalty from Jamie Casey late on in the first half, bringing them back into it. I suppose Clare had maybe a 4-point lead at one stage, and I think at that stage it looked like they were going to start pulling away, but I suppose they didn't. I suppose going in at half time, win point up, you'd be thinking, it's the advantage was for Wexford, but I suppose credit to Clare, the ball had Mark Rogers and Peter Duggan, I suppose, and that was a huge difference in the forward line. David Fitzgerald was immense all day, getting up. I think he scored 5 points from play. He probably had maybe 2 wides as well, possibly on top of that. So, getting 7 shots off from wing forward is a very good day's work. I think there early in the second half, Cathal Lombard's goal opportunity would have been a big change point in the game because there was never too much between the two teams. I think in that scenario you have to score. It was very bad. Trying to bounce for the keeper, but either side of that keeper was a goal. I don't think there was anything Broderick could have done to stop it. So that was a potential, I suppose, goal opportunity flundered. I suppose, look, Wexford will be happy with the draw. I suppose it's a result, and I suppose the manner and the result is, Lee Chin limping off injured, Kevin Foley going off early injured, and I suppose these are their two playmakers, or two creative guys in the forward line that make things happen for them. And I suppose to plug away and to dig it out and get the draw, I suppose, is a good result in itself. They will have, a couple of things they will be disappointed on. I think the 15 wides is one of them, and I suppose even in that second half where I suppose shot selection maybe where some of these shots were not coming back to Wexford of old, but taking shots inside their own half because they're with the wind. I suppose feeling they had to take a shot on. So that's, I suppose, something they might have to work on. But I suppose from a Clare point of view, they'll be happy to have their 2 wins and a draw, sitting on 5 points. They've awfully to play. They're going to have Kilkenny at home in 2 weeks' time. A real, I suppose for them, there'll be a bit of hurt and anger there over the All-Ireland semi-final last year. And, they could cement that top place in the group with a win there. But I suppose with Offaly left to play, with no disrespect to Offaly, they're sitting in a very good position, and I suppose it's very hard not to see them being in a semi-final of the league.
Absolutely. Rory, get you in there. I suppose from a Clare perspective, what was your thoughts on that performance?
Yeah, I suppose it was a real mixed performance from a Clare point of view. I suppose at times, as Kieran alluded to, at half time, Clare being down a point, having to face the breeze, and it was a stiff breeze. You'd have taken the draw then. But there were times in the second half, especially with maybe 5 minutes to go normal time, where Clare, I think they got maybe 5 out of 6 points in that spell and went 2 up after being maybe 2 or 3 points down, and it looked like they had all the momentum. Then they kind of lost it again, and just a couple of things, I suppose. We spoke last year about some of Clare's failings, and one of the big ones was shot selection, and it seems to be the same players. Dermot Ryan is a great player, but sometimes you just wonder, he takes shots from that aren't on against the breeze, curling up the wing when. At that stage you had Rogers on, Duggan on, and there were forward threats inside, and sometimes I know saying that, last year, every shot he took against Cork up in Ennis went over, and he almost single-handedly won the game. But overall, in general, and it's not just Dermot Ryan, but it's just kind of a trend with the Clare team that their wide count is massive in every game. it is something that like should have been addressed maybe 2-3 years ago, and it just still seems to be festering. And I'm just worried that if it hasn't been addressed by now, is it just something that like the players, just no matter what has been said to them or shown to them, that it's still happening, or is there this encouragement that look, the more shots you take, the more scores you'll get? You know, at some point, like you have to kind of like have a scoring zone and have an area, like a player himself should know where he's scoring limits are, and not be going for kind of the Hollywood scores from crazy angles. But look, in general, I suppose 5 points after 3 games, they're unbeaten. They've Kilkenny at home now next, and as Mark said, Kieran, as you said, Offaly to finish. So you would like, it would be a disaster now for Clare if they don't finish in the top 2. I wonder, are Clare going to be mad to maybe win the group and maybe potentially avoid Limerick, not to be playing Limerick too many times because they're the first round in the Munster Championship, and you don't want to come across them like too many times. If you're to beat them, it might be in the Munster Championship. I know last year ended up 2 games in Munster Championship against Limerick, but it's something's probably on Lohan's mind. Are you better off maybe playing Limerick in a league final, but again, that depends on Limerick's results at the other side in 1B as well. But overall, a mixed performance, but they kind of fought it out against the breeze in the second half, and then when they had chances of winning it, kind of fell away just near the end. And probably Wexford, both teams wasted chances to win the game. Wexford probably wasted more chances to win the game than Clare. So I think I texted into our group there, neither team really deserved to win it, because neither of them kind of snatched victory either. It was a case of who was going to miss the most by the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely, Rory. And I mean, I suppose, Kieran, coming back to you from a Wexford angle, Seamus Casey seems to be pretty prominent in the league. I mean, 1-4 last Sunday, and I mean, good resilience again from Wexford to come back and rescue a draw here from Jack O'Connor as well. So, I mean, key roster and the management surely will have a few positives, particularly down the closing stretch.
Yeah, I think definitely. If you're looking at the personnel that were on the field and finished that game out, think of the players that have to come back in. Roy O'Connor, Conor McDonald, Liam McGovern, Dee O'Keefe, Liam Ryan. These are big guys in that team for the last couple of years, and I suppose in certain positions there is now a bit of competition. I think Conor Foley is probably one of them players who's been really impressive to date this year. Both Walsh Cup and the early league rounds, he's been really standout player, and like that's for Liam Ryan coming back from injury and trying to wrestle back that jersey from Conor Foley. So that's a healthy position to be for Keith Roster in certain regards that probably wasn't there in Wexford for the last couple of years. And then you come like Seamus Casey is 27, 28. He's been in and out around Wexford panels for a few years. Under Davey times, he actually played in goal 1 year. So I suppose I think every player in Wexford was looked at this year, and I think if you've deserved a chance at a trial, you got it. And if you're still there, you're there on merit. And I think for the likes of Shamey, that's true to form. He's I suppose he's an IGA clubman here beside me, and he's really good player. And every day he takes the field like he's scoring 111, 112. Some of them from frees. Like he's a really good deadly forward. He's real accurate. And I was just kind of saying, if he had been on the receiving end of the pass he gave to Colin Dunbar, I would put my house on he would score. Like if he gets in that position, it's very hard to stop him. But like players like that, they're getting their chance, and I suppose it is still an inexperienced team that has played the 3 early rounds in the league. Bar maybe the 2 Rex. Like Jack O'Connor's been around a few years as well, but there's a lot of youth in there. With Keane Byrne coming in, stepping up from the 20s. Conor Foley the same. Owen Ryan, Conor back. Niall Murphy. Like these are all new guys to the Wexford team, and they don't look out of place either, which is probably a good thing. That if they don't make the starting 15, that I think some of these guys could be relied on come championship. So it's not all doom and gloom. I think look, it still is a transition period, and I think it's the next 2 or 3 years maybe where some of the old guard might start stepping away. That then I suppose it'll be looking at to see what numbers are there and what guys are there. But at the minute I suppose with the mix of the new and the old to come, I suppose there is a little bit more depth on the panel than there would have been in the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rory, getting you back in here in terms of even Clare, Keane Broderick had a very good cameo on goal. Thinking of Conor Lean here, Sean Rinn, Patrick Crotty, Keith Smith. So, I mean, Brian Lohan certainly was giving chances here to certain squad players, and they certainly did impress with their work rate and their skill set.
Yeah, although some of them, like work rate, I wouldn't question. Sometimes maybe end product with a good few of them, like Keith Smith's end product, I've seen a bit of him in UL. He's a talented player. He was probably Clare's main forward in the under-20 Munster Championship last year. Did very well. Sometimes it can be nerves, but getting his first start that I can remember in a league game for him anyway. And look, one bit of ball, but end product wasn't quite there. Aidan McCarthy, a guy who we've seen a lot of, and just his decision making, I thought, was quite poor at times. I know he's been plagued with injuries of late. But, sometimes it was a player maybe 10, 15 yards ahead and loose, and he was taking on shots under pressure when there was an easier ball. Look, there are things I'm sure will be pointed out in video work, and you're hoping there'll be a learning curve there. Sean Rinn wasn't as good as he had been in some of the previous league games. I thought Darragh Lohan did fine. Conor Lean, good in the first half. And instantly with Wexford, I thought at the very start, I thought like for the first 15 minutes, the forwards seemed to be like Lee Chin, relying on Lee to win the ball. It looked like he was the only one for a while just kind of winning 50-50 ball. And then when he went off, the rest of the forwards kind of came in. Maybe they felt they had to take on that responsibility now. And it seemed to change the mindset. The forwards looked a bit more of an even unit. That can often happen when the star man, is put to one side. And the question is, will lads stand up? And players did, and it was that second quarter, I suppose, where they kind of fought their way back and took the lead that, probably gave them in with a great chance of winning the game at the end of it. Yeah, look, from a Clare point of view, the only thing I'd say, maybe some of I expected more from some of the newer guys. And when you look back now, are any of them, when it comes to championship, going to hold on to their place ahead of your Shane O'Donnell's, Tony Kelly's, and, Ryan Taylor, if he's fitting well? Probably Ryan Taylor, Munster Championship might come too soon for him, but looking down the stretch, it's hard to see, okay, I know you need a squad, and some of these guys definitely are strengthening the squad, but I don't see many of them being starters. Now, that could change, of course. There's 2 rounds to go in the league and maybe knockout stages. But at the moment, hard to see too many of the new guys kind of breaking their way into the starting team.
I think Rory Sean Rinn won't be far off, especially if Ryan Taylor doesn't make the early rounds. I think the word is that
he's a pick of the bunch.
Definitely missed the first 2 rounds, I think, isn't it? So, I think, maybe not on Sunday as much, but definitely against Cork, and Waterford, really impressive. And, I suppose he has everything his size, and he was a ball winner there on the puckouts too. So I don't think he'd be too far off if Ryan Taylor isn't there.
Yeah, he's probably the best out of all the guys who've been given a chance. And I suppose we've said this before with younger players, you have to have a bit of patience with them as well. There's going to be a bit of up and down while they settle into the team and get used to the players. And sometimes it can be, overall, being a bit overawed in a way, like with some of the players that they might have been looking up to for the last few years, and suddenly they're on a team with them. It can take a while to settle in. Yeah, look, he's probably is the pick of the bunch so far anyway. But
is Aaron Shanahan gone, or what's the story?
We're just questioning that one. Haven't heard of him gone, so it look good chance of an injury. I'll check it out for next week. But just he hasn't been involved in any squad, so maybe it's a long-term injury, but I haven't heard of him leaving the panel or going. Maybe that is the case, but you certainly expect him to be getting some lead time by now if he was available. So
absolutely, those are some great points there, guys. I suppose we can move on to Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Cork faced Waterford on Sunday afternoon and secured a 2-point win, 121-119. A 10-point advantage for Cork got whittled down to 2 points at the end. But I suppose, Kieran, what were the stand-up moments for you on that game?
Yeah, a funny game, really. I suppose you're wondering, is there an element to shadowboxing with the championship around the corner? I suppose the first half there wasn't a whole pile between the two teams, and then early that second half, third quarter, Cork started pushing ahead, and I watched the game back this evening. I don't know, was it the case that Cork were really good or Waterford really bad? Like, Waterford had opportunities to score from maybe the 30th minute to the 50th minute. Waterford had 9 wides in a row. So I think it was just, maybe poor shot selection or pure execution, but they were getting chances, just weren't taking them. And I suppose in that period, Cork did take the chances and started pushing ahead, and they went 10 clear at one stage, and you're thinking, game over. But, I suppose the roles reversed in the last quarter there, where Waterford just started running direct at Cork, and I think they made Cork very uncomfortable, and they started slotting over points. I think Mikey Kiley, when he came on, did really well. Took 2 balls, ran straight down the neck of Cork, and I think he got 2 points at the end of it. Jamie Barron as well getting back on. Hogan coming in as well. So like Waterford, they are injury plagued. Like you look at the players that have to come back in. The 3 Bennetts, Desi Hutchinson, obviously, Jamie Barron and Kiley getting back on the field there last week. So there is a lot of players to come back. I was really impressed with Callum Lyons. Had an unbelievable game. He was scoring from play. He took some long distance frees. A real menace of puck outs as well, winning dirty ball. If there was another 2 or 3 minutes left in that game, you'd nearly have tipped Waterford because they had that momentum going that they could have gone on and won that game. And they still had had a couple of wides in that last quarter as well, where they could have had that deficit back to maybe even level. It's hard to know Cork. It's another performance, another game where they haven't put in a 7-minute performance. Cork were outscored in the last 10 minutes, 10 points to 2. So that's a complete switch off. Obviously Waterford had their perfect patch, but not at any stage did they try and nullify it or stop it. It's really worrying for Cork that that you can just switch off for periods of a game. The last 2 games it's been maybe second, third quarter, and then they're coming back into it. But this was last quarter they had the game won, just had to see it out, and Waterford just came at them like a steam train, and they didn't have any answers. So I think from that in that regard, okay, they got the win, but there's probably more question marks now than there was going into the game.
Yeah, Rory, get you in there. I suppose get your thoughts on the contest in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah, and look, I suppose Cork probably promising signs from Jack O'Connor with 1-3 and Brian Hayes 3 points. But then again, you had this time you had Lahan not scoring, Shane Barrett not scoring at all. And it's just a thing with Cork. All their forwards have this explosive potential, but it's inconsistency. So what I'm sure Pat Ryan would love to see is that, Jack O'Connor backs this one up with another big performance next week and the week after. And just like Patrick Horgan is really like their one consistent forward. And I know you could say he's kind of one of his quieter games, but still a threat all the time inside. And every team now kind of are targeting if we can completely cut off Patrick Horgan. Are they going to get enough scores to beat us? And
but Rory, he's winning ball, but you just know by the legs are gone. He doesn't take on any defenders. He's looking for a pass. So is he not a passenger, but is he holding them back in certain regards, where they might have an extra bit of pace in there in that full forward line?
But I suppose what he's waiting for is just another forward to be put in a few consistent performances, and it's what's lacking at the minute. With Coleman coming back and O'Connell being a bit of a revelation midfield, like there are signs of improvement for Cork, but it's just at the minute their forward line just doesn't seem to be firing, and they're not getting that consistency. With Waterford, I know it was spoken about with Wexford and free taking, but if Bennett isn't playing, you'd wonder, because Jake Prendergast took a few of the frees, doesn't look a natural free taker. To me, Callum Lyons took over a few, and it's something that they need to nail down. If Davy Fitzby, if Bennett is out, he'd be on the phone to Pádraig O'Mahony pleading him to come in, because it's so important at this stage just to have, and we know O'Mahony is one of the top free takers in the country, so to have him out of the squad if they do have injuries in that front would it'd be a massive plus if you could get him back in.
I think he's out for the league, isn't he?
Yeah, but is he coming back in for a championship? So look, the only thing from Waterford point of view is it was the first time this year we really saw some kind of green shoots just in that last 10 minutes spell. And as Kieran said, it was when they got the players back in, the likes of Hogan coming in as well, and Jamie Barron, of course, I thought he brought a real, he always brings an energy, but to midfield, it kind of they took over midfield in that spell. I'm sure, even at the end of the game, you kind of saw Davies' body language. He was grinning, and you could see that there probably was that sign that things are turning around for them. So, as Kieran said, they won't give a hoot about losing that one if they beat Cork in the Munster Championship, which is a huge game for them to target. From an overall point of view, it was a strange game. At one stage, Cork looked they might pull out, win by 15 points, and again, it's kind of that old failing again that Waterford were let back in it, and by the end of it, Waterford were the team. At the very end, you thought might even get a goal and win it at the last play of the game, but that broke down. But anyway, they're kind of showed a bit of life, and maybe that they're turning the corner and going maybe in the right direction coming into championship.
I suppose the other positive for Cork, Mark Coleman making his first start since 2022. I mean, he won that lovely puck out, fed Jack O'Connor for the goal for Cork. So it was great to see him back. I suppose Davy Fitz was a bit of a frustrated figure after the match, talking about a third quarter, struggled again. I suppose, guys, we can switch to UPMC Nolan Park. Derek Ling was pretty forthright in his comments post-game that a few words had to be exchanged in the Kilkenny dressing room at half-time when Offaly playing with the elements were 6 points up. I suppose, Kieran, what a response from Kilkenny though in the first 12 minutes of the second half, putting this game to bed fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think by all reports there was a real strong wind in Nolan Park, and because Offaly had the advantage of that, and 6 points up at half-time. I remember looking at the score app at half-time, and the word was going around Wexford Park that Offaly were leading by 6. But Kilkenny really came out in that third quarter and blew them away, really. They outscored them 10 points to 1 early in the second half. And I suppose then the Owen Cody goal, I suppose, sealed it. I think it's probably the extent of the wind was shown in the first half. Killian Kiley got a point from just outside the D with the wind, so that kind of shows how much of a factor it was. But look, I suppose Offaly, I'm sure, Johnny Kelly will be happy with the performance again. There's 2 games in a row where they've been, I think they're not far off it. Like, they have physically, they're there. They're bringing in a couple of these younger guys like Screeney playing. Charlie Mitchell, really good game. I think he scored 1-2. Dan Ravenhill again coming in, getting 2 points. Owen Cahill obviously still the main man in the freeze there as well, scoring 10. So I don't think they'll be too. I don't think they're looking for results. I think it's more some performances to carry into to Joe McDonough, and they'll have to go into that competition with the way they're going. If they keep that going with confidence, and that they have to be odds-on favourites to go and win that Joe McDonough this year, bar a huge shock. Well, look, Kilkenny, they never panic, do they? You know what I mean? They were 6 points down at half time. They had it wiped out fairly quick. Billy Drennan got a start. 1 point from play. He had 11 overall, but 10 of them from place balls. Still don't think he's doing enough in open play. But Adrian Mullen, 6 points from play. He's in red hot form in this league so far. And then Owen Cody with the goal, scoring 1-1. So look, Kilkenny will be happy as well. They're up there with Clare after up on top of the leaderboard there in the league at the minute, and a huge game against Clare, weekend after next, and I suppose that'll be whoever wins that goes top. But there'll be a lot riding in that game, I suppose, just with emotions for Clare after the semi-final last year. But Kilkenny won't want to give it to them easy either. So a good result for Offaly. Well, not a bad, a good performance for Offaly. Sorry, not a bad result. Losing by 7 in the end. But I think Johnny Kelly will be happy with the performance overall.
Yeah, Rory gets you in there as well. I suppose from a Kilkenny perspective, Mikey Carey and Adrian Mullen certainly were prominent for Kilkenny in that opening half. But there are some issues here for Derek Ling and the management staff to really correct, particularly in attack, where they looked a bit toothless at times, and Offaly really did expose them in that opening period.
Yeah, I suppose you have Blanchfield didn't score inside. Kenny didn't pick up scores. Like, there were a line, I suppose, on Mullen, 6 points from play, and Owen Cody with the 1-1, and that goal came at a crucial stage because they had kind of wiped out Offaly's lead, and that goal really put the gap between them. Then went, I think, it was 18 points to 15 when Cody got the goal, 118 to 15 with the breeze. It was game over at that stage. But in fairness to Offaly, they could have, completely waved the flag and taken the beating, but they rallied and hung in there and kept that gap at the 6-7 points all the way to the end. We questioned last week what might happen with Offaly after their performance down in Wexford Park. We were saying it'd be a shame for them to go and then get, a severe beating off Kilkenny, but that wasn't the case. And this is exactly what we were kind of, hoping for an Offaly point of view, that if they were to be competitive in the going into Joe McDonough and actually going and doing the business this year and getting their promotion, that they couldn't fall away in the league and ship a few beatings, and that hasn't been the case so far anyway. Like, that was a good response, and to lead Kilkenny 6 points even against the breeze down in Nolan Park, it shows that they were in red hot form in the first half, and the mindsets were right going down there, that there was a belief there. Yeah, I suppose then it's just Offaly's next step, I suppose, is to maybe over the next couple of years develop that squad depth, get that bench where you have impact players coming in as well, because one thing like noticeable is they got no score off the bench, and it's something that you see all the major teams, the top teams in it, like that the bench can come in and make a huge impact scoring wise as well. Like Kilkenny 3 scores off the bench coming in. It's just a simple comparison to make, but it is something maybe that over the next that Johnny Kelly will be hoping to build over the next couple of years, and with the talent coming through at under 20 level, maybe that mightn't be too long before they have that squad depth. But as Kieran said, it's really time to shit or get off the pot for Offaly and Joe McDonough this year. Like being competitive in the league is one thing, but you have to now go and win that division. If they're stuck down there for another year, it's going to be detrimental, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran gets you in there. I mean, all we say about the plaudits of Offaly, they have to go and win Joe McDonough this year, and that brings its own pressure.
It does, and I suppose they were hot favourites last year as well, and I suppose they might have been the creators of their own downfall. They were kind of handpicked Carlo to play in the final. I suppose themselves thought it might have been an easier route to go. I suppose Carlo shocked them on the day and probably one of the games of the year. But I think they're physically they're up to Liam McCarthy standard. They don't look out of place. I suppose they're a couple of more these the under 20s, and I suppose one of the Pilkington saying one time that they're just the attitude of that under 20s team was just a level above anything else we've ever seen before. Just the work rate. Like even with the likes of Adam Screeney, like he's a small guy, but he works like a lion, and I suppose if that can rub off on some of the senior panel players as well, these guys coming in pushing for places, it has to increase competition. So look at Offaly are being in this rebuild stage for a couple of years, but I suppose last year or this year they're taking huge strides. It's not just about getting up. I suppose it's when they do get up, they have to stay up. So as Ruairi said, building your panel, building strength, it takes more than one team or 120 team coming in with youth to make a successful senior team. So, keep the work going underage and keep the conveyor belt of players coming. And, if they get back and can hold up for a year or two, I don't think they're going to be like an Antrim or Westmeath. I think if they do come up, they'll have aspirations of building and getting back to where they were in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great points there, Kieran. Suppose we can move from Division Group A to Division 1 Group B. And I mean, guys, from a league organised perspective, I think, to be fair, what happened in Croke Park and Corrigan Park probably been a bad look for the league here, Ruairi. I mean, where do Dublin and Antrim go from here after those drubbings that they've gotten from Limerick and Galway, respectively?
Well, like 1B has been a bit of a disaster from a competitive games point of view. And it kind of shows a kind of warning signs for the Leinster Championship maybe as a spectacle going forward. If Dublin are going to continue with this standard going in there, themselves and Antrim look way off it. I know you could easily say this is a Dublin team that went and led Galway by 12 points last year and probably should have won that game in the Championship. But taking out that kind of result, which kind of threw everything on its head in Leinster last year, just so far, like going back to the quarter-final capitulation against Clare in the Gaelic grounds to what they've produced so far in the league, and in particular Saturday night, like it looked like Liam McCarthy versus Joe McDonough, and that's the worrying sign for Dublin. They are seem to be on a slide, and they need to kind of rectify this. From an Antrim point of view as well, we spoke about like Kieran asked a question last week, Antrim and Dublin. Okay, Dublin got the win, but where do both teams stand? And I think we know a bit more this week exactly where they stand, and that is 15 to 20 points off the top teams in Leinster. Like just an interesting stat from the game, from the Limerick-Dublin game. The Limerick back scored 7 points from play. The Dublin forward scored 7 points from play. So that kind of tells you where they were at. But it is worrying, and like thank God the GA are kind of revamping things. Probably a bit unfair in one way on the 1A teams that it's a massive scramble to stay up at that side, whereas at 1B like Kilkenny, Galway, Limerick can at their leisure kind of stroll through it, and they know that they're safe anyway, and then they'll battle it out for the last 2 spots if they're interested in making the semi-finals. That's not the case in 1A, of course. So thank goodness for 1A this year, because as we said, 1B has just been an uncompetitive disaster in terms of spectator sport.
Yeah, Kieran, get you in there, get your comments in terms of what we've seen so far in Division Group 1, Group B. I mean, from a Tipperary, Limerick, Galway perspective, are they a little bit undercooked going into the closing end of the league campaign, going into Championship?
Yeah, I suppose there's kind of pluses and there's pros and negatives for if you're comparing 1A to 1B, I suppose Limerick and the route they were given, they've been ramping up, and I suppose the last 2 games they're going to be against Tipperary and Galway, which are going to be very good tests. I suppose it's allowed John Kiley to play, youth in the earlier games without, I suppose, the same pressures. And I think there would be 2 huge games. I think Tipperary, obviously going well, they're not going to want to bend over and, they're going to go. I think they have aspirations to go and try and win the league. And I suppose Galway, the saviour, you're going to face 2 teams who, potentially want to go and win it. Just going back to Dublin, like Dublin have been poor, but I suppose if you look at the personnel that have come back in for that game, that the game will stand to them. Like, Chris Crummy, Donald Burke getting back in. We didn't think that was going to happen this time last week when we were talking. The word was, wasn't good. Sutcliffe getting back in. I thought he had a really good game. Ronan Hayes and, still all of them to come. So, I suppose until we see the full deck, on shuffle and see how Dublin are going to face out coming towards that Wexford game and championship, they have been playing with, I suppose a lot of their main guys have been not on the field to date, and I suppose, maybe are we doing a little bit of a disservice judging them so easily, so quickly. That game, Donald Burke hasn't played since, last, July or August or September. So, he's only going to be, it's going to take him a while to get back up to speed. Also after coming back from an injury as well. But look, I thought Dublin weren't, the first 25, 28 minutes, like Dublin were up to the pace of it. I thought Sutcliffe was really impressive. Like their lines of running were very good. Like they opened up Limerick a couple of times at the back. Nicky Quaid made 2 saves. Sean Curry's goal when they came, like it was a well worked move. I think they were, running from deep, running off the shoulder. They at times they impressed me, but I think when Tom Morris's goal went in, the second goal, maybe the head might have dropped a little bit. They didn't lay a glove on Limerick, really, especially in that late first half, second half. If that would worry me, go forward, that I suppose the heads went down and they gave up. Sutcliffe aside, I think that the younger guys didn't have the same work rate he did. I think he kept it going. Yeah, look, Dublin are not the team they were last year, but maybe we're very quick to judge them, and maybe it's part of the plan to go into championship and, like we've seen teams have very bad leagues and come out in the championship and look like a total new team.
I suppose give credit to Westmeath here, Rory, as well. I mean, Tip went 14 points up early into the second half, and you thought, oh God, here's another cricket score. But in fairness to Westmeath, and I think this is maybe a worry for Liam Cahill, direct ball inside to Mitchell really did pay dividends in that third and fourth quarter, and only really for an own goal at the end from Connaughton for Westmeath really put an embellishing scoreline for Tipperary. I suppose Westmeath have probably been, compare Antrim, Dublin, Westmeath really have been trying to be competitive in the division.
This is 2 games in a row for Westmeath. Like they've followed up a good performance against Limerick with this performance against Tipperary, and just like in case we thought that Tipperary were going through the motions, whatever, Liam Cahill was fuming after the game with Tipperary, and probably like you have to give Westmeath credit there as well. Like that, as you said, didn't give up the ghost, kept rallying until the end, and with them down in Joe McDonough next year, you'll be kind of looking at them. We're probably giving it to Offaly here based on a couple of performances, but I have Westmeath maybe being, quietly going along as well with impressive performances on their side of the division. And they probably have that chance maybe to get a confidence boost of a win or 2 in as well. Whereas Offaly, I know they had a good drawdown in Wexford, but they have, last couple of games to come here. They're looking at Cork and Clare, so a Cork team that are, trying to ramp it up, and Clare as well could be looking for a win if Kilkenny beat them. So maybe Westmeath will be there to shove it up to Offaly later in the year, and it won't be all Offaly's way because the signs are promising for them. And there's still 2 rounds to go, and you want them to finish strong as well. Same with Offaly. It could still be deflating yet. And going back to Dublin as well, what kind of, I suppose, was a bit disappointing. I know that we were saying Chris Crummy and Donald Burke and these lads were back for the first time in a long time. But kind of the newer guys like where is there kind of Adam Screeney or new kid on the block coming through? Like there are no names really coming out from Dublin of the next Donald Burke. Like there's
Dooling looks good. He's kind of coming on. That's the only player there, yeah.
So there seems to be that kind of lack of guys coming in that are going to improve things. And when it comes to this, comes down to championship, they're going to be kind of a lot of the same guys again. And I'm not saying, look, that's not a bad thing, but you do need lads pushing through. And Dublin are at a stage now where, you know, a lot of miles around the clock for some of the guys. I know age profile, they're fine, but they've shipped a lot of heavy defeats the last few years. And you just wonder, like, they do need that kind of, you know, talent coming through, kind of that youth that don't fear going playing Kilkenny or these teams and that, but it just doesn't seem to be coming through for Dublin at the minute. But yeah, look, going back to Westmeath, yeah, they've been tipping along nicely, and I know we're saying this after 2 defeats, but it was a manner of their defeats that they showed heart and caused problems as well for like teams that would consider themselves, like Limerick All-Ireland champions and Tipperary, who would consider themselves as contenders as well. And for Westmeath causing problems must be, you know, positive for management.
And then as well, David Williams, you know, scoring 2-12 and on the losing side, you know, to be fair, some scored 2-3 from play. Killian Doyle coming on late in the game, getting 2 points. You know, we know how important he is for him. So, you know, they are, I suppose, an improvement on league last year. And I suppose, look, with performances like that against Limerick and Tipperary, I'm sure, you know, trainings have been, you know, probably going better, and they're probably bouncing off the ground when they get there. So, you know, it's all a knock-on effect. And they've yet to play Antrim, have they?
Yeah, they played Galway in the first round. Antrim and Dublin.
Antrim, Dublin, yeah. So, you know, the way things are going, they could be looking at 4 points the last 2 games.
Good optimism there for Westmeath. I suppose we could switch to Corrigan Park. I mean, Galway's team sheet really was a kind of a blend of youth and experience. Great to see David Burke back in a Galway jersey. And then you had the likes of the Gavin Lees and Nevin Nylands hitting as well. And I mean, to be fair, Kieran, I mean, this was pretty ruthless performance from Galway, to be brutally honest. I mean, when you said at the start of the game, Conal Gunning would only have 2 points, one from a free. I mean, it really does kind of tell the tale of the tape here that Galway were utterly dominant.
Yeah, it was you know, chalk and cheese, really. That's just my point on Cunning as well. Like, you know, we were talking him up last week, scoring was at 110 or 111, you know, and I suppose a big shock when I saw the news report he'd only scored 2 points. You know, he's there. Noted as their main talisman, but look, for Galway, I suppose they were looking for a response after the loss to Tipperary, and you know, Niall with 13 points, 10 of them from frees. Jason Flynn has been impressing, you know, hasn't he, for the last couple of years, and without taking a huge step to nailing down a jersey and such. But you know, I suppose the first goal was very opportunistic, and you know, took it well. And you know, Tom Monaghan 6 points, and Conor Cooney with 4 points, and you know, so they're ticking away nicely. And I suppose they have bigger games to come too. They're going to have Limerick the last day out, and you know, so Galway seem to do that, don't they, to the smaller teams. They're ruthless when they go about it. You know, same when they played Westmeath, they've no problem putting a cricket score on a team, and they have always been that way. But I suppose it's this was they get a litmus test going into Leinster Championship in that last league group game against Limerick. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, Group B does really intensify now with Limerick having to face Tipperary on Saturday week, televised game on Saturday night, and then following up that with Galway. So, I mean, we should know a little bit more from all these three teams come the end of the league. I suppose, guys, we can maybe switch to Division 2A. And I mean, the key game in 2A was in O'Moore Park, Portlaoise local derby between Laois and Carlow. I know, Kieran, you'd strongly tipped Carlow to win this game, and they really did impress here from start to finish.
Yeah, as I said, I've seen the two teams the last couple of weeks, and this Carlow seemed to impress me the most. As I said last week, the half forward line is really, really strong. I suppose the first half, Scott Tracy goal was the only main difference between the two teams in the first half. But I think that third quarter is where Carlow pushed ahead, and you know, they had it out to 120 to 13 points, 55 minutes, and from there they saw it out. No easy feat going into your neighbours next door, into Portlaoise, and you know, I suppose this time last year you would have said there was very little between the two teams, but I think Carlow have taken a step or so more than Laois have since then. They have been, to me, I think they've been impressive, and I suppose for them now is their youth coming in behind that to push into the team and you know, try and stay at the level they're at. But I suppose that question remains, and you know, for Laois, I suppose they've been around for a couple of years. That same team, you know, Paddy Purcell and you know, Peaky Maher and you know, these guys, you know, they just fail to flatter at times. They're kind of at that mediocre level all the time, and I think since that year Eddie Brennan had them, they're kind of they've petered out to the same level, and they haven't pushed, or they haven't descended here, but they haven't pushed on really. So I suppose for Laois, like, it's probably looking like they're not going to win that group, the 2A, but I suppose it's still out to play for them. But I think this Carlow, for me, were the dominant team in that group from the start, and I suppose they probably have one foot already out of it.
Yeah, totally, Rory. Get you in there. I mean, emphatic win for Carlow, and I mean that kind of tandem of John Nolan, Chris Nolan, Martin Kavanagh, James Doyle, Conor Keogh. I mean, look, they're contributing 14 points to that winning total. I mean, they're a key line. I know Kieran has highlighted that in the last few episodes. That half forward line is one of the best ones in the country at the moment.
Yeah, and as you said, like Chris Nolan, 4 points from play, and John Nolan, 3 points. Kavanagh, sound on frees again, 9 points. One of the top free takers around. And yeah, it is interesting. Like Laois now have to rally. Like they can't let this result in a way. Like they should still be finishing maybe second in that group based on how things have started. So they need to rally and get that top 2 spot and be playing against the stronger in that kind of Division 2, what we call 1B next year, but will be the second tier. They need to kind of rally there and get themselves in there, because things can go wrong, and as we've seen with Laois before, like the wheels can come off, and what was turning into an okay league campaign could end up in disaster if they don't make that top 2 now. Yeah, Carlow were good winners, and as Kieran said, like that they are the team that seems to be on the up there, and obviously buoyed by the Joe McDonough win as well is going to give a boost and confidence to all those players. And to win in Laois as well, it isn't an easy place to go for the likes of Carlow. Wouldn't have had much joy there over the years, but to go there and get that win is another boost for Carlow. Yeah, they're going to need all the confidence they can get going into Lee McCarthy next year. So winning that Division 2A is going to be, it's going to be important for them, I think, to have that momentum going in.
Absolutely. No, and I think William Maher, Laois manager, has kind of circled the wagons a little bit after that result with his post-game comments about really regrouping against Kerry being kind of a be-all, end-all kind of season definer. But I suppose call out for Paddy Purcell as well from Laois, scoring 4 points from play as well to complement Stephen Maher with 7 points. I suppose, guys, we talked last week in terms of Kerry being in a bit of a vulnerable spot. Meath with Saoirse Bulfin's charges coming down to Kerry, but fair dues to Kerry. They basically fronted up and a very good second half performance to win 14-16 points, Kieran.
Yeah, I suppose, I was the one who tipped Meath last week. That was based on, I suppose, what we've seen from Kerry last few weeks, but the Messiah, Kerry hurling, is back. Shane Conway scoring 1-9, so it was always going to be a different team if you took to the field. And, coming back from injury, 1-9 this time of year is very good scoring. I think Kerry would be very disappointed with their start of the league. And, that game against Laois could put the cat on the pinches if they do get a win there. It's not all done and dusted. Yes, you would say, probably have Laois favourites for it. But, if Kerry can back up that win with a win against Laois, I suppose their league campaign is back on track, really, isn't it?
Yeah, Rory, get you in there. I mean, look, it was a bit of a topsy-turvy opening period, but really that second half performance, Shane Conway, also Dan Goggin as well, was very lively for Kerry throughout here. And twin for Stephen Lumphy and the Kerry squad to really build on heading into that Laois encounter.
Yeah, and Kerry had played with the wind in the first half and only led by a couple of points at half time. They had 11 wides with the breeze, so you kind of thought maybe momentum might be with Meath coming out with the breeze with them, but Kerry had a great form second half. As he said, like Shane Conway, just at this level, like he's possibly the top player, one of the top players anyway, along with some of the Carlow half forward line in the whole division, like, and when he's on form, which he was, like, it just lifts the whole team. From a me point of view now, thanks to Buff Egan's highlights of the game, Pádraig Hanrahan got some nice scores. For me, it looked a threat inside, and Nicholas Potterton as well in the other corner. So there was threats inside full forward line, but just kind of at times maybe getting the ball in there, especially when they were under pressure, they weren't getting enough ball into that full forward line. But again, a similar situation where Meath started the league well, and they just maybe another win would, coming out of the league with 2 wins for Meath would be seen as a bit of progress for them. Yeah, but as you said, now it tees it up nicely now to Laois Kerry again. Kerry, after losing up and down, now having the Meath victory, like they can build on this, and the Laois, a win against Laois would really, make this division very interesting, especially that fight for the second spot.
Absolutely, and it's kind of blown wide open that result. Grand as well. I mean, we'd strongly tipped down to do the business against Kildare, but all in fairness to Kildare, this was a pretty progressive performance from them. There was nothing in it between the two sides, and really, McRichards last minute point secured a 124 piece draw for down in Kildare. I suppose, Kieran, positive sides for Kildare and maybe for down, maybe just a little bit of reflection of drop points here.
Yeah, I don't think there was too much between the teams the whole match. They were kind of nip and tuck. I think I saw that the league change hand 10 times during the game. Down had started the league campaign well. Kildare probably so, but I think for Kildare to go up there and get a result like that, get the draw is probably a good result. Roll back 12 months, Kildare were high and flying, and Down were at the other end of the table. They were near the end themselves in Derry, but I think it's been a good start for Down. Kildare, as I think Ruairi pointed out before we came on there, are they keeping the powder dry this year and maybe attacking things a little differently? Because I think last year when they hit the championship, they were like a team that had run out of gas completely, and they put everything into the league. And so that league final against Offaly was a big turning point in their year. But I suppose the next few rounds will tell I suppose where Kildare are at. There'll be bigger games to come for them, and I suppose I think for Down so far, they probably would be happy with their league so far. They're definitely an improvement than last year.
A good result for Kildare, and again, a bit like Kerry, they can build on that result for the rest of the rounds. Those guys we might leave there. I mean, there's bike, obviously, in the Allianz NHL League this weekend, but again, we'll return next week. We'll have a focus on round 4, but also we'll have a look at the secondary schools. The All-Ireland semi-finals are scheduled for this weekend, so we'll get the reaction of the guys here in terms of Kieran's against Arts Colruyt and Nina, CBS against St. Raphael's of Loughrea. I suppose until then, enjoy the weekend, and we'll chat next week.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Psychic podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Psychic on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.